The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Welcome to the Bombadcast.
What is up, Bombad fam? It is me, your boy, Scotty Jarrow, with the Bombadcast. Look, y'all, I'm super excited to be here with a very, very special episode. If you can see down here, we've got legend versus nostalgia with our boy Alden Diaz, but I'll get to him in a second because I love that guy. Look, I got his shirt on. Look at this. Octo Radio. I got a personal message from him about this shirt. I love this guy, but I'll get to him in a second, okay? I want to hype him up, though. One of the greatest out there. So, as you can tell, and if you haven't noticed already, and it's your first time listening, we're part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network. You can hear us audio and video, but video is where you want to see it. We got some good stuff usually, and I want to say this much. If you like the Bombadcast, if it's your first time, you want to check out some of the things you'll love around the galaxy. Okay, you'll love Holo Chronicles. You'll love BTBD Live. You'll also like the weekly call-in show, okay, on our network. It's so much fun. I love being a part of this group because of how much variety we have. And we've got so many things in the works for 2021. This is our first episode of 2021 as well, which gets me pumped up. And if you want to actually get more into the community of Beyond the Blast Doors, you can find us at beyondtheblastdoors.com, okay? You can become a patron. It only costs $5 a month to be a patron for several shows. It all gets split evenly amongst us, okay? I've never seen the money, but it happens. If you want to follow us at Bombadcast of Twitter, of course. Not only you can follow us there, but you can always leave us a good review on iTunes, or you can even share us with your friends and family. And I think it's the best time to bring in my co-host. And you've heard of him before, hopefully. Hopefully you've seen him. He always wears a beanie, okay? And I don't know why, but that's just his thing. And his name is Jerry, the Canon Junkie, Cable Jerry. What is going on, brother? Oh, let me unmute you, Jerry. There you are. How are you?
Very, very nice to speak. And if anyone's wondering about the beanie, it's because there's actually just it's actually just more like a the right thing. I get like Kit Fisto dreads like back up in here. I'm working on, and I just they're not ready yet. So, you know.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
As long as you keep working on them. Are those dreads? How does that work? You know what?
I believe those are tentacles, actually.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to. And I just can't afford them right now.
Yeah.
So it's just the dreads right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see when we're done how it looks.
Well, look,
so.
Jerry. Okay, we've had this guest on in the past. It's his first time in 2021. I believe he came on the show, I think, twice in 2020. But I love this guy right here, Jerry. You're the one that reached out to have this person on because that conversation below in the banner, that's a heavy thing to talk about. And this is the one to talk about it with. Jerry, who is our wonderful guest? Hype him up.
Wonderful guest. You know, we couldn't talk about the header down here, or the bumper down here without him because it has his name on it. But we also couldn't talk about it without him because, I mean, he is one of the great Star Wars Twitter pontificators, honestly, of all time. He's up there for me. He's up there for me because, and oftentimes we agree on things. It's just that he's much better at articulating them through the written word, and he is none other than Octo Radio, and I don't know if we can talk about his other show, what's already, but the One and Done Movie Club's very own Alden Diaz. So, Alden, what's up, buddy?
What's going on?
There he is.
Look at you guys, man. Can you guys follow me around everywhere that I go and just start like laying out, all the nerd stuff and just like hype me up, before job interviews and things like that? Because I think post COVID, when all of our jobs are eliminated, we're going to need each other for a little bit of that hype, I must say.
Oh no, we're gonna move.
Honestly, yeah, dude, I'm down. Like, no pay or nothing. I'll just like follow you around, being your hype man.
People are
For
like,
real.
who is that? I'm like, don't worry about him. Don't worry about him.
Like, come in with a mic, like, yo, 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 get ready.
He throws a piece
one.
of cardboard down, starts spinning on his head.
Yeah, woo, 80 Strider, woo.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna break dance anymore, Scotty. Pull away, pull away.
It's so good to be here with you guys. I love you guys.
Oh, see,
we've missed you. We've missed you.
I agree, and it's funny because we had Alden on for a really big episode of ours. Has a ton of downloads. I don't know if it's because of you or if it's just because it's a good conversation. It's the Palpatine.
Both.
It's the Palpatine episode, and everyone in this room, we talk about it heavily. We can attest to Palpatine being the greatest villain of all time, number one, and only being better after the Rise of Skywalker. But that is a whole different thing.
Oh, you said it. You said it.
I know I said it. I had to. Yeah,
You said it. He gets even better throughout the last few episodes, the last season of Clone Wars that we got.
Oh, that's
right?
true.
I actually just rewatched. I rewatched seasons last weekend. By the time you're watching this, the last like seasons 5, 6, and 7, I rewatched over the entire weekend of New Year's, and I even did a thing where I found like a guide where I watched Siege of Mandalore and then watched Revenge of the Sith to this point and then back to the other episode and all that. So we can do it all on Disney Plus. It's awesome, but Palpatine is terrible, and we're not here to talk about him. But he makes me want to scream and cry at the same time. So,
yep, I get it. And today's discussion really comes down to this, and I'll show the lower third again for one that hasn't seen it: legend versus nostalgia. Now, Jerry, you kind of coined this whole thing, but Alden was the one that was like I wouldn't even be able to describe Alden's situation. He was like the mind explosion of this thing right here. It's a weird
right.
Phrase. He was the explosion that landed on my face. No, Jerry.
Oh gosh. Oh man.
Oh.
Woo. Hey. Mom, Dad, how you doing? Well, here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing with this topic. As you can see, guys, pull back. I am with two viral sensations today. Okay. I am with at the Scotty J-Ro.
Yep.
Who of YouTube fame. You look up Rise of Skywalker trailer reaction, it's number 1 or 2 on the list. I'm just saying. And then you have viral sensation Mr. Alden Diaz, who got retweeted and mentioned by the king himself, the king of the Raylos. Came down from on high, the Mount of Mortis, to bless him. And we are just I was so happy for you, vicariously living through you, dude. How did that feel?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was, you say he came down on high from Mortis, from, the Temple of Octo. He comes down and he gifts you like an angelic cable knit sweater, and then flies away. It's just, he's got his cardigan on with his lobster and everything. No, it was really cool. I mean, I love Rian Johnson. I respect the hell out of Rian Johnson. I think that he's fascinating, and controversially, I will say everything that they gave us on Investor Day looks glorious. Mwah, love it. So excited for the Acolyte. So excited for Visions. So excited for Ahsoka. So excited for a lot of stuff there. I would trade them all to get the trilogy from Ryan. I would trade them all. Chips on the table and push them all in. Sabak style, because I love that guy. So the fact that he engaged, the fact that he engaged with fandom at all after the way some people have treated him is incredible. I mean, that's something that people need to really put into the context, is that some people can't deal with conflict at work. Some people can't deal with conflict at home. And that's all valid. But imagine whole countries worth of people, whole legions and thousands calling for your job, for your head, over nothing, over a story. You get that equal, that pushback and love as well, that fights that. and that makes it worth still engaging. But what I really admire about him is the way that he's always had a sort of centered confidence, a Jedi confidence, in saying, that's the story we wanted to tell. We told it. You like it, great. You don't like it, great. And he'll engage with, the people that are engaging in good faith. And a lot of what we're about to talk about is about good faith and about, story first type stuff. So it was just a really nice moment.
I bet
Absolutely,
it was, dude. I remember
man.
I screenshotted it because okay, so this is how nerdy I am. I'm subbed to all of his tweets. Any notification he sends out, I'll click it. Like anything. It could even be like I'm playing Clue
I'm a
tonight,
shill.
like he always does.
I'm a shill
So,
too. I love seeing all of his tweets about whether it be baseball, random cinema. That man is a treasure.
Yeah, no, I agree. So
That's so funny.
I'm subscribed. I'm notified when his tweets come up, and I read this great thread, Alden, and I'm like, no way. So I remember clicking it and I screenshotted it as fast as I could, and I DM'd him. I DM'd Alden Diaz right here because it was just so. I was like, he actually got like that. That really is above Lucasfilm highest of high praise, because the thread itself was beautifully written, but it conveys a really interesting point. And I want to bring up one thing before we look at the thread itself, is that today's episode is actually episode 77 of the Bombadcast, which we know is a holy number in Star Wars. And I think it's kind of interesting that the discussion we're having.
That's the year that George Lucas lost his virginity, right?
Yes,
I hope so.
77.
Because if he didn't after that movie, then
Yeah.
he deserved
all
it.
the groupies. Yeah, he's like just like George Lucas in the 70s, like with like a stick, like the whole thing with the Beatles where they're trying to hide from their fans with newspapers and stuff and running around getting chased. Imagine that, but it's George Lucas, just like I
love that. I love it so much.
That's amazing.
Covered in like women's undergarments. Oh my gosh, George.
It's important to bring it up. No, it's okay. It's important to bring it up because this discussion within itself is really big. So I'm going to get your thread pulled up, Alden. What was going through your mind when you wrote this? Because this is coming off the high of the final episode, chapter 16 of The Mandalorian, with the amazing moment we get at the end, which I'll show right here. This moment right here, probably one of the most important moments, I would say, in modern day Star Wars fandom. I would equal it to just the iconic like Vader moment at the end of Rogue One, which I would almost call it as well, as important as the Kylo Ren and the Luke moment on Crate. All those things are super iconic, and each franchise, or I guess each movie, has their own moment. But this moment right here, y'all, this
is like Chewie, we're home.
Yeah, you're
this is
100% right.
It reached that height of like cultural awareness where like even my mom, watches Good Morning America. Like it even hit the purview of just regular mainstream America in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Right.
It was like Grogu's reveal. It's like they started The Mandalorian, just these first two seasons. They started with a bang with the Grogu thing, which was mind-blowing for fans. But then you ended it with the Luke thing so far, which is mind-blowing for every person that walks this earth.
Have I talked about it on here yet about my dad, like his reaction to that? Like my dad, again, my mom and dad like Star Wars, but they're like they're the normies that we talk about. That Pete loves when I call people who aren't uber nerds like us normies, but they're the normies. And they, my dad, I FaceTimed with them immediately after we did like a family viewing, right? Like a watch party.
Right.
Because they're in Arkansas, I'm up here in Michigan. And my dad was ecstatic. He was like a little kid. I was like, that's Luke and stuff. And my mom and dad were just amazed. Like, how'd they do that? Whoa, that's so cool. It really did touch something for people. And I think you guys are both right. It is one of the most powerful moments, and the stronger in my opinion. But let's get into Alden's beautiful telling of that. So honestly,
Alden, when writing this, were you gathering your thoughts, or was it one of those moments? Because I have moments like this when I do tweet threads, or even when I write a song or whatever, where it kind of makes sense as you write it. Or was this something you had been like premeditated? Had you sat on this for a couple of days?
So I watched the episode. So for people that follow me or maybe don't know me, I work in morning radio. So I see the Mando episodes at 3 a.m. Eastern, and then I work. And so I have the work sort of forces me to let it digest. I always will shoot off, my tweets and see if like Pedro Pascal notices, which he did.
That's so cool.
And that's a story for another time. But I will get immediate thoughts out there, but I try to respect the 72 hours of spoilers. That is not official, but the company had sort of been going by with their poster releases and things like that. So I sat on it, watched it later in the day, and then watched it again Saturday. And Saturday is when I wrote the entire thread. And I think I wrote it over the course of like an hour. And I was just thinking to myself, I know sort of generally what point I want to hit. Sort of felt like writing an article, because that's kind of the thing that Twitter has done, is that it has democratized the ability to write an article. Like, it's really cool to be on StarWars.com. Call me. It's really cool to be on, all these websites, I don't, off the top of my head, with the big ones like IGN, all those places.
Sure. Right.
And, just getting an opinion piece out there is always special. But now we sort of have the ability to be like, it's nice to get editorial approval, but you don't really need that if you're in a rush and if the conversation's happening now. And I knew that once this was out, we didn't get the Luke poster that I thought we would get, but that was in my mind. I was like, when people see Luke and, I heard that Favreau is going to be on Good Morning America and all this stuff was going to happen Monday. I knew I wanted to get my voice into the conversation because I could see already that there was misplaced rage, I felt, and that there was misplaced anger. And shout out to my friend Nikki Kumar from Imperial Senate Podcast. He FaceTimed me at 4:45 in the morning. And he's West Coast, much easier for him. And we FaceTimed me and we were like, R2-D2, oh my God, like trying to be quiet for the other people around us. But it was like, I don't want to wake up my neighbors. I'm living in an apartment building. So we're, yeah.
Right.
And so we were talking about it. And then there he is, the boy. And then, going on Twitter and seeing people say, that was so safe. I can't believe it was all that build up for nothing, 2 seasons, and that's what we get. They have not going to name names, but there were people in our space, saying things like, we're just going back to the well. It's going to be, the same old, what this entire time. And it was just like, come on, are we going to do the most base level? And I think that what bothered me is that Star Wars fans have a hard time implementing Star Wars teachings in a lot of ways, where Star Wars is always been about digging deeper. Right. It's like you guys love Phantom Menace. Like, let's go to Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon and Shmi are talking, and Qui-Gon is digging deeper into the situation. He appears to, he perceives things before they happen. And Shmi's like, yeah, like she's never really thought about it. And he's like, that's a Jedi trait. Like, it's not that he has fast reflexes. It's really this. His reflexes are only fast because he's perceiving things on a grand level that he can't explain, that you can't explain, but I know it because I'm a Jedi Knight. This is the whole thing, living force. We need to approach the material given to us that way. Like, what does it mean? Like, was it like you go even to the studio decision level? Like, yes, it is cool that you get Mark Hamill in there after we all thought he was done with the sequel trilogy. That does move dollars. And I'm sure that there will be a Black Series figure of Luke with the hood up, and just so they can justify selling another one. I'm positive that will happen. It is a money game. But what does it? But the characters in Star Wars don't know they're in Star Wars. The characters in Star Wars don't know that they're a Disney property. So we need to analyze it on the terms of the script. It's like people that have said, Endgame, I wish that Endgame would end the MCU because it's knowing that there's going to be more movies, knowing that Far From Home was coming, took away from the impact for me. And it's like, yeah, well, they don't know that there's going to be more Marvel movies. The Avengers don't know that.
No.
They think this is the final battle. Like, it's easy for Steve to leave someone like Bucky Barnes and say, peace out, I'm going to go be old, because he does think that it's over. So that we need to analyze things on the terms of the story, which really frustrated me very early in the morning. I was angry drinking coffee. And then I thought, like, I need to grab a picket sign, not really, because COVID, please stay indoors, and explain this. Because I feel sometimes, I've said this to our mutual friend Ken Knapsack and a couple other people, I feel like not a Star Wars fan sometimes, even though of course I am. I feel like a Star Wars activist. Like,
oh my gosh,
point.
I feel like sometimes I need to be out there. Like, I need to chain myself to Star Wars and just be like, you will not tear it down. Like, because there's beauty here that you don't understand.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I identify with that right now. Like, seriously, I've never thought about it like that. That is, I know what you're talking about, because like, especially after Last Jedi, that's when I got really active in Star Wars Twitter.
Yeah.
And that felt like, no, this story is valid. It has importance, and you really do feel like it's why they feel like they should, complain, call for a remake or something, because they care about it so much, just in the opposite direction. But we're like, no. What happened has happened. Why is it important?
What happened has happened. What happened has happened is so key. I'm so glad you said that, because it's about approaching this like an unfolding document. This is fact. Like, it's how I really like. Did I prefer Rey Nobody? I absolutely did. People listen to my show. I absolutely preferred Rey Nobody to Rey Palpatine / Skywalker. I liked that. But when they gave me Rey Palpatine, it wasn't, how can I spin this into one director fighting another? It was, well, that's just a fact. Because in 20 more years, some young fan that saw Rise of Skywalker in theaters is going to tell their child or little brother, little sister, oh, this is Rey. She was the third hero of Star Wars after Anakin and Luke, and she was the granddaughter of the Emperor, but she turned good and joined the heroes. Like, that will just be part of it. It will just be a historical fact. You have to analyze Luke and all these people same way you analyze. I mean, we all freaked out about Hamilton, dropping on Disney Plus. Like, it's not historically accurate, but what happened with the man happened. Nobody is like, I wish that Lin-Manuel had made Hamilton kill Burr. Like, well, no, that's just history. This is Star Wars is just history,
Great point. And one thing I wanted to bring up too, before we really got deeper into this and looking at your thread and everything, was the fact that, a lot of this stuff, legend versus nostalgia, is a really interesting thing, because you got to think the most active Jedi at that time would have been Luke. We don't know what happens to Cal Kestis. That takes place like 40 years before this. I mean, no, not 40, but like 30 years before this, though, right? Like,
he's 5 years after Sith, at least.
Okay, so
so like 15-ish, 20-ish years.
20.
This is 20-ish. But then that ruins the narrative. We know he survives, so we don't have like a good arc on him. But that's kind of Star Wars too, in which you see a character like, well, I know they don't die now. Why am I interested in the story? Because you need to be interested in the journey of the character. That's what I'm interested in. How do they get to that point?
Well, then
that's what I want to know.
Was Ezra, right? And we all thought, it could be Ezra. And old boy was teasing all that on Twitter, so everyone was thinking it's going to be Ezra. But it was great that it wasn't. It makes so much sense that it was Luke. And, they did the reveal perfect. The feeling of the whole moment felt so right. And, the fact that we have a moment with Din Djarin looking at, Grogu going off with Luke is just so incredible. And then R2 shows up. I mean, these are just, like you said, Alden, these are just people in the Star Wars universe. These, they don't know they're anything more than that, right? They're not going to be, they're not in the Star, like, it's a hard, you phrase it better than I ever could. They are not aware of Star Wars. They just know it's this world they live in.
It's true. And it's like,
what happened.
I even said in my review of the episode that, you heard people say, oh, well, it was kind of weird that the other characters just stood there. And I'm like, well, I mean, I would, like, this is what we thought was an extinct order of beings has just walked into the room. And Cara Dune in her service to the rebellion may have heard of Luke Skywalker, but they were many cells, as we've established. And so she's not necessarily going to react, nor is Bo-Katan. A joke that I made in my reviews, Bo-Katan's not going to be like, hey, your master used to date my sister. Like, that's not going to happen. Because she doesn't know that Obi-Wan existed after Clone Wars. I mean, maybe she does. I mean, maybe she'll pop up in his show. Who knows? But it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. A hooded bow showing up in the desert and being like, get off your ass. Something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting disconnect between story and reality. A lot of people hold the story to the fire thinking that the story is the studio. That's not the same thing.
No.
At all.
I mean, it is interesting how that shapes a story, right? But that is not in and of itself the importance of the story, right? Is the drama behind the scenes and stuff. It's interesting. Yeah, but you're right. And it's funny. It reminds me of the quote of Jason Segel's character, I think Marshall in
How I Met. Yeah.
Like the only people who haven't seen Star Wars are the people in Star Wars. That's because they lived them. They lived Wars.
Yeah.
Great show. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. That's my endorsement there. But the thing that I keep going back to about that, people are like, why didn't he blah, blah, blah. What is the emotional crux of that scene? Is it that, oh, Luke Skywalker's here? No, it's that they were just saved by this Jedi, and now it's emotional crux is Din has to now say goodbye to Grogu and let him go with this someone of his own kind, as he thinks, a Jedi. Anything about, which again, people have problems with. How do they not know about them? They're all over the place. And it's like, I mean, Galaxy's a big place, guys. The Galaxy's a big place. And anyway, we complain too much, I really think. But that's the emotional crux of that scene. Yeah, is that emotional crux.
You're the canon junkie, man. Like if they really want to play in those terms, you really have to play in those terms. The Jedi, I think at the height of the prequels are like 10,000 strong. You could fit every Jedi into your local basketball arena. Like if you're watching this episode, wherever you live, think about your hockey arena or wherever you go to watch concerts around you. You could fit every Jedi in there at their height. Like there's a lot of planets.
Especially if you were from the Outer Rim on, you don't see them and you hear stories. They're more mid-rim, they're more inner rim, mid-rim. They go out to the Outer Rim, but not often.
The Republic doesn't exist out there, as is said in Phantom Menace. And they are in service to the Senate, which is part of their problem. But that's the breadth of that's why High Republic is about, I've heard that criticism already ahead of the books even being out, which, by the way, they're really good.
I can't wait, man. I got my pre-orders coming.
They are. But this idea of, how could they still be frontiersmen 200 years before? I thought they were the Grand Jedi Knights. Yeah, there's a lot of planets even in the core. Like you could build up a huge legacy in a small area. I mean, look at the Sith has like 3 strongholds, and they were the biggest enemy ever. They have Exegol, they have Korriban, Morban, I don't know, Dagobah. Sometimes it feels like.
What was the one that there was the other one that they went to in
Malachor.
Rebels?
Yeah,
Malachor. Yeah, had like the weapon on it at least.
Yeah, so it's the influence. I think of Game of Thrones, of that quote of a very small man can cast a very large shadow. It doesn't take a lot. In terms of the galaxy, and again, and there are also things that have always been established in Star Wars, like hut space and things like that are just sort of outlying factors. So again, the nitpickiness of fans and sort of the hypocritical nature of like how we react to fan service, which I know we're going to talk about, is a huge factor in all this.
Oh yeah, and this is another interesting one. It ties in perfectly. A short man can cast a huge shadow, just like this. I mean, not in a negative way, but like, dude,
sure, no. I mean, I gained like 1,000+ followers in the span of a couple of days. I have a very tiny in the grand scheme of Twitter. I have a very small following, a very small, well curated following. I mute and block very liberally, and as everyone should. But that whole experience was just trying to sort of get the voice out there. And again, I think that good content, and it's not a self-compliment saying that my content is good, but it's just thoughtful, good content that comes from the right place, I think will always shine through. That's why I didn't this season I didn't rush my reviews out to be on Fridays. They came out Mondays, sometimes even Tuesdays, to get the conversation right, to make sure that whatever guest had the time to think, that they had time to digest, that they had time to X, Y, and Z.
Plus you can, it gives you more time for you to cultivate your thoughts. Because this season proved in The Mandalorian, they're just going to if they keep going this format, every episode's going to be a banger, and every episode's going to have a little bit of a tidbit you didn't expect. And I don't know, this thread alone is what I live for on Twitter. Because most of the time on Twitter, and I'm sure anyone that's not on Twitter that watches the show or is watching it now, it gets a little cluttered and it gets a little unfortunate. And then there's some really, really good things that come of Twitter. And this, my God, to me is one of the best examples of it. So Alden, I'm not going to make you read it. There's no point in me doing that. But I want to kind of convey, explain, the whole mantra of this, because I think the beginning is the best. I think it's perfect because I was Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, a legend,
Yeah. So that was the quote that I immediately went to, right? Is, when I saw people's rage online about it's so safe. Why would they do this? It's a waste. I was thinking, well, first of all, ironic considering what Last Jedi detractors wanted in terms of the Luke that was presented to them. As if we were making the sequels in the 90s, which, sorry, we're not. Right. But then also just in terms of this is emotional payoff. I mean, there's so much BS about the plan, as if George Lucas has ever had a solid plan. He hasn't. I mean, I hate to break it to you. If I'm the one that's breaking this to you, I'm very sorry.
I love how much he talks about how it is a solid plan, but it is clearly not. It's like a Han Solo plan. It's like there was that whole thing a couple months ago with the prequel archives of Maul and Talon were going to be the villains of the sequel trilogy under George. It's like, yeah, he also said that it would be about the microbiotic world of the Force and midichlorians. He may have thought he was going to use Maul and Talon, and then he didn't, and then he told Filoni to bring him back. So clearly the plan, there are many, plans. And if you think that in Empire they were setting up two siblings, you're wrong, unless you're from the Deep South or something, because those were not two siblings in that film. They lucked out that it wasn't more of a tongue in cheek, literally kiss.
No, like a full on, but that they didn't really try to make Han jealous. So I started thinking about context and how, because I always go on about the tapestry, on my show and on Twitter, and how Star Wars is unique in the way that it looks like Black Widow will be a prequel, but as of right now, it's the only one that is moving forwards, backwards, to the side, and always retroactively and contextually building. Everybody loved the fact that the flaw in the Death Star came from Galen Erso. That type of I love it, and that type of storytelling is Star Wars right now. Where how can we put a drop in the water here that ripples and affects things over here and over there, right? And that type of storytelling really works. So when I saw Luke actually taking on all these dark troopers, which were sold as an immense threat, I mean, there's a reason why you show your protagonist get his ass beat for 4 minutes straight, and the immense punches and everything. You show that way when Luke takes on 40 of them, you're like, oh my God. And it takes you back to I was a legend, and him talking in the temple on Octo by the Prime Jedi sort of little pool pond there, and describing how he not only was perceived, but how he felt. You feel untouchable. He is so confident in the way that he handles everything in this episode, in the rescue of Grogu, that it makes complete sense that when he did have a failing right under his nose at his own temple, that it would be that much more crushing. And so that was one of the initial thoughts that I had, because Obi-Wan Kenobi, believes in his heart that he failed Anakin, and from a certain point of view he did. But they were also at war. There were many factors, many people, Palpatine, there was so much going on with Anakin breaking the code and all this stuff, the hidden marriage, Ahsoka leaving, a lot of stuff going on there. With Luke, it was very focused. It was you and your nephew and 11 other students that were also children. So really it's between you and him. And you can take on these galactic threats with such ease. But then when it comes from within your own house, that's how crushing of a thing it was. And so I think that this episode was just highlight, underline, circle, it was just everything about the pain. And like you're showing right there in that highlighted that quote. You don't need Luke Skywalker. I'm going to walk out with a laser sword and face down the whole First Order. The point, as I said in the next tweet, is that he could. And a lot of people, I think, that misunderstood and didn't like Last Jedi. And again, I'm not saying that everyone that dislikes the movie didn't get it. That's a whole thing that I know people are going to want to jump on that first. So let's just get that out of the way. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. There's no hard feelings here, guys.
Totally
We're trying to all talk.
I like Rise of Skywalker. All right. I get what it's like to like something that is, so baby, I like Attack of the Clones. And so
preach, brother, preach.
It's like you got this this man in this movie telling this young woman, this young hero, I can't do it. And a whole generation of, I would say mostly guys, felt broken and sad that their hero couldn't do this. But that was not the point. The point was that he could. But the point is, should he? How would he feel doing it? What would it mean? I mean, look, think about real life. You're 20 years old and someone, comes up to you at the bar and knocks your drink over and makes a comment, to your girlfriend or boyfriend or pushes you out of the way. Like, you're going to want to fight that person. A 40-year-old man or woman might have those experiences at a bar and think, I really want to fight them. But like, is that the right move right now? It's going to ruin everyone else's night. It's going to cause trouble for the bartender. It's going to cause trouble for the managers of this place. I could get arrested. I have bills to pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The older you get, every decision has to be weighed more. And not that the conversation...
Especially if you're a legend. Especially if you're a legend.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you are a known person in your community, in the world, or even amongst the galaxy in this sense, you making a mistake that's really big, or even being a flawed person, is known. It's gonna be known, And that was this next line in your passage. I think is so beautiful. We are witnessing the man gain the mythical status and aura that makes him feel invincible. It's the underlining. It just displays as what makes his fall so tragic. He is this legend here.
And the fact that when you look at the kids at the end on Canto Bight that hear the story of Luke, that's when he realizes that there's value in storytelling through your deeds. Like Last Jedi, I think it was Anthony Breznican said that it was the first Star Wars movie that's not just about growing up, it's about growing old. I would add to that it's also the first Star Wars movie that's about storytelling. And the fact that, that Holdo can see in Poe, we see it when Poe's stunned and knocked out, and her and Leia have a little laugh, and she's like, I like him. Like, they are witnessing, they know the molding of whoever's going to carry the torch forward. And DJ is trying to undermine the story of good for Finn. And so Finn has to decide what truth is in the story in a lot of ways. But then what Luke has to learn is that you have to tell the story in a lot of ways, which is something that I don't think he had felt comfortable doing to this point, where Obi-Wan, had to make calculated choices in what he told 19-year-old farm boy Luke. He knew what he needed to hear in that moment. He gave him what he needed. He told some lies, told some half-truths. You have to be able to create for people sometimes, like parents that are watching right now will know something about that, I think, I mean, you can speak to
100%.
Like sometimes it's like you get a hard question and it's like, I can only give you 80% of what the answer is.
Right.
But sometimes you have to fabricate something altogether. And what Luke did here was create a Luke Skywalker that he knew people needed. Because now if you're a first order grunt and you're on one of those ATM 6s, you're looking down, you're like, oh my God, he just disappeared. Like, that was wild. Then you tell someone, then you tell someone, then you tell someone. And that gets all the way back to those kids. And that's the calculated choice that he had to make. It's difficult, it's difficult to have that pressure on you to have to be able to make those decisions and to not do it actually violently.
Right. And that's the beauty of the whole end of The Last Jedi, is that he ended up facing down. He ended up getting the best of both worlds. He faced down, like you said, the First Order with a laser sword. Like he said he wasn't going to do, and did it his way. Did it the way that he wouldn't compromise his beliefs and such. And that was just, it's so beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, this is the next part that I love so much about your thread, because it's the one that didn't get addressed, I mean, obviously it is addressed if you look into it, but people didn't realize it, because Alden brings up the fact that Ahsoka is like, saying this is what happens if you do not go this path, And Luke doesn't know this. He never learned this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just told the great idea of the Jedi, which is good and all. Don't get me wrong, but it's really important to know that the Jedi did fall. It's because of their hubris. Darth Sidious rose to power, which is a line directly from The Last Jedi, you know? And you can see it right here in this line. Oh, I don't have it showed. Hold on. There it is. Right here. You get this moment between them two, you know? We shouldn't be mad at Luke for this. That's not what it is saying. It's showing us that Ahsoka had lived an experience that granted her perspective. Luke Skywalker at this point is coming off the changing the galaxy and beginning a journey of rebuilding. That's a huge task for Luke.
It's massive. I mean, the scene in Yoda's hut in Jedi, you know, before when Yoda does what I think everyone wants to do, which is you get hard questions and you're just like, I'll just die instead of having to have this conversation. Oh, sorry. Yeah, your training's done. Good night. That whole scene where he says, you know, the last of the Jedi, you know, that whole theme, you know, Luke sort of looking and Luke says he's sorry for rushing off and not finishing his training, all that stuff. That whole scene is the weight is being passed. Like Yoda passing means, to his knowledge, I mean, Ezra, Kanan, Cal, all of those, you know, tertiary Jedi aside, you are the last, at least that the core order is influencing. Because as of right now, Ezra had his encounters with Yoda, but that was, you know, sort of a limited thing. Cal, we're not sure if he ever encountered Obi-Wan or Yoda. Probably not. So in terms of the grand order, you're the last of our tradition. We're passing it all on to you, not just the pressure of killing your father or redeeming him, you know, that he would later prove that was possible, but the entire idea of our tradition rests with you. Whereas Ahsoka walked away from that as a teenager and had bitterness that we see in the Siege of Mandalore. She's still very mad at Obi-Wan. You know, they did not have good terms toward the end. It's interesting in terms of her story to think about whether or not her and Luke have spoken at this point. I don't think so. I have growing thoughts on that, but I think it was important to have her in the middle of the season and Luke at the end. And people sort of this was the part of the thread that got the most pushback, not angry, but people saying, well, no, she didn't refute the old ways. She stuck to the old ways because the old Jedi wouldn't train you if you had that emotional attachment. And that's not really what I meant. What I meant is that the old Jedi would still put the order above a kid's feelings. They still, they were like, oh, you're too old, attachment. But when push came to shove, when the words chosen one hit that council chamber, they were all like, you know, yeah, he misses his mom, but this could be a good play for us. Like Qui-Gon might have, you know, like we really need a chosen one right now. Like the prophecy could be coming to pass. And they put prophecy over the fact that kid was scared. So yes, like in a certain way, saying he's too emotional to be trained is of the old tradition, but putting his feelings and saying he needs to choose, take him to the Seeing Stone, and if he reaches out, then fine, is new and enlightened. And
yes,
and people can say, oh, Anakin had a choice. Oh, please, like slavery or leaving with this man that changed your life is not a choice.
Oh yeah,
it's, you know, like
well, it was made for him essentially. Like he said he wanted to go, but it was like I don't know if Qui-Gon would have left him there. You know, I mean, I think he would have found a way to get him on the ship.
I think he would have maybe Qui-Gon. I mean, that's an interesting thought. I think Qui-Gon maybe would have pieced out for a couple days, gone and hung out in the ship. But I think that Shmi would have done a lot of nudging. You know, if Anakin
to
had
get her son a better life, right?
She probably would have said like, you know, Anakin, like, you know, do you really love working in that workshop? Like, do you really want to live in fear? You know, there's a lot of bullies around here. Like, I think that there would have been a lot of like, you know, because she says the path is, you know, what does your heart tell you? She's trying really hard to pull it out of him. Whereas Grogu, being, you know, nonverbal and more baby-like, but Ahsoka is saying we need to be able to give him as much agency as possible, which the old Jedi did not do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, and
absolutely.
This next part's really great. Pressure and consequence, because this is what we know. This is what we know about Luke. You know, we know that he's destined to fail as master of his own temple and has been Solo's master. We find him in the wake of failure, probably thinking about situations where he foolishly felt untouchable, like when he saved Grogu 25 or so years earlier, which is true, you know, which leads to the best part of this. So what does he do in response? Once Rey, Leia, and Yoda all contribute to the redemptive wake-up call, he projects, quite literally, a fusion of the Luke that we see in The Mandalorian and the Luke that he becomes now that he's processed all these lessons. Now, look, this might be, and to me, I agree with it. I side with it. I know Jerry does too. Alden, I think this might be the most controversial part for people having to accept this. I'm serious, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, it totally is, because there is a misunderstanding, which I think is a lot of the point of the sequels overall, especially Last Jedi, and I would say also Rey versus Palpatine on Exegol, where I would remind people she never actually hits anyone. It's very purposeful. She doesn't even strike down any of his guards. Right. She never swings at anyone in the third act of that movie, which is very Jedi and very purposeful. But Last Jedi has that in spades of heroics and being a hero are not the same thing. Heroics and leadership are not the same thing. Doing the right thing does not always mean making the grand play. Finn has to learn that, and with Rose, in terms of, you really like, so what? Like, you crash into that thing, you buy us 2 minutes? What do you? We lose you, and we gain what? 2 minutes of time? They have a bunch of ATM 6s that are standing right there. They'll blow it for us. We're all gonna die. We would. It would be better if you saved what you love. Poe's arc is all of that. Poe's arc is all of that 100%. And Holdo was 1,000% right to act the way that she did, because she was a superior officer. She was making the hard calls, and he was being insubordinate. And them's just facts. I mean, if I acted the way that he acted at my job, I'd be toast. That's just the way it is. And then
they would stun you and pull you out, right? Yeah.
They would. I would be floating on a canister, like that would be. They would be like, and they wouldn't be like, we like him. They'd be like, no, he's fired when he wakes up.
Get that guy out of here.
I know. Put him in an escape pod. But
go
ahead.
No, what did you want to say, Alden? Because I wanted you to write the point there.
No. But just then the last third of that is Luke. It's what is heroics, and that's what you're saying. The hard part for people to accept is what I'm building toward in this very wordy way. That's why I do threads. Is because people for 30 years in our culture associated Luke Skywalker with, the Sarlacc pit battle, with you will bring Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me, with, Cloud City showing his friends, saving his friends, like all of that is sort of what we think about with our heroes, especially I would say, as much as I love the prequel generation, we got treated to a lot of badass acrobatics and flips and duels and charges, and especially across Clone Wars. But the point was always adventure, excitement. A Jedi, doesn't seek these things. And so when you were actually faced with that, the fusion that I talk about there it is black clad Luke. He does show up with the hood, just like he shows up in Mandalorian. It's those elements of, oh my God, like this is like Jabba's palace. He's about to show up and wreck this entire place. He's walking out toward the entire First Order through the fire and everything. And at that point, you don't know it's a projection when you're watching it for the first time. And you're like, oh my God, you're not even thinking about the fact that, why is his hair shorter? Why is he less gray? What, didn't we just break that saber? You're not thinking about it because you're so in the hype and the movie's using that against you. And then it's, he's not attacking at all. And yeah, in canon, like Rise of Kylo Ren by Charles Soule, we did see that black outfit was sort of his adventure outfit when he trained Ben and stuff. But even then, the fact that he wore the black into his old age shows that he remembers that guy. He remembers them, but now he's bearded. He's a sage. He's a little bit older, and he's going to use rage against everybody else, which is so much more Star Wars than hacking and slashing, which is why when Rey blocks with both sabers, and again, credit to Ken Napzok and Joseph Scrimshaw, she needs Luke and Leia. She needs both masters, both twins.
That's beautiful.
When she does that, he kills himself. I've seen people say like, oh, it ends with our protagonist just obliterating the bad guy and it undermines Last Jedi. No. He did that himself. Same reason he's got melty face. It happened again.
Yeah, it happened to the extreme.
Because that form of hatred that he has is self-destructive. That's the whole point of it, right? And that just directing, again, like you're saying, directing that hate right back at him. So powerful. It's so powerful.
See, that's what made this next part I like so much. That it flowed really well here. This is not to say his actions in The Mandalorian weren't Jedi actions. Oh, no, they were. And taking out these dark troopers so spectacular, he was protecting and defending. He was left with no choice, a decision to draw his sword, and one Jedi must take on occasion. Because it's true, you know? Mm-hmm. These were also droids, too. They did a really clever way to write that, you know?
Yeah.
He didn't draw his sword on other beings, on other conscious beings. He drew them out on really powerful droids, and you get a great moment. Vader draws his sword out on rebels, and you see the scary death and destruction. You're all
screams
watching it. Yeah. But when you watch this, there's no screaming. There's no fear. You're like, this is him doing his thing. He is literally trying to protect the heir to his legacy. You know, it could be Grogu, it could be Ben, it could be any other Jedi. And what he says is so important. I will protect him with my life, which is a great,
so beautiful. Comment. Yeah,
so good.
To hear Mark Hamill deliver a line like that just gave me chills. And I love what you said there about the droids, because I mean it works on the A level, which is coolness, but then you get deeper and it's, oh, isn't that the exact emotional journey that Din just went on in season 1? Like his life was changed by droids attacking him once. His life was changed by a droid again. And now his life will be changed in a certain way by droids again, in terms of this trauma and realizing how they connect to a Jedi.
Yeah.
But also I go to Dr. Pershing, where Pershing said, you know, these are the phase 3 dark troopers. The final element was to remove people altogether. They're not suits anymore. They're just droids. And that sort of sets up that we can have this action scene without death. But I also think about Luke in Battlefront 2 and talking to Del Meeko.
Oh, yeah, that's a great
Del's
line.
like, he's like, oh, I'm an Imperial. Like, why'd you help me? It looks like because you asked. And that's what Grogu did. Yeah. He asked. That's the difference, is that Luke it would have been awesome. Luke probably could have, you know, shown up in the X-Wing and just started bombarding the place, or brought a squadron with him. But it's the precision, you know, that's the samurai element. Filoni talks about his job interview at Lucasfilm, where George looked at his drawings and was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Well, a Jedi, you know, he told him like you would take the saber hilt and just be like, this is how we're going to do business. You know, it's you leaving me no choice. It's Ahsoka showing up at that city in chapter 13 and saying, I will give you one day to make it right, to let your prisoners go. Like you always have the option. And it's that somebody tweeted it once, and I wish I could credit them and remember, it was a long time ago, circa Last Jedi. But it was the in the Bible, there's that in Matthew, it's like those who draw the sword will die by the sword. That's been translated a bunch of different ways. Like a Jedi Knight is like, I'm not going to hack at you, but I will block you and disable you. And that's twin sons. That's all these things. And Gideon, through these dark troopers, you know, you mess around, F around and find out. That's you know, that's sort of what happened.
Oh, I completely agree. There's one part in here, let me get your thread pulled up, that I really identified with the most. You know, it's super important. So no, hashtag Mandalorian fans, the show isn't giving you the badass Luke the Last Jedi didn't give you. And no, Last Jedi fans, Mandalorian is refuting old Luke with a badass cool Luke that's all action. Neither of those are the case, and both are, frankly, reductive. There is no better look at post-Return of the Jedi Luke in The Mandalorian. It isn't Lucasfilm refuting The Last Jedi. It isn't pandering to a crowd that didn't get what he dealt with in his old age. And I encourage my fellow TLJ fans to see it. That's the best part. Because, you know, we are TLJ fans, but we're also fans of, you know, badass Luke. And I feel bad that people feel split on that. And you addressing that was really important, because a lot of people, and you could tell from that day alone, were like, that's not Last Jedi Luke, and well, Last Jedi Luke was never Luke to begin with, and
this is an apology. This is them walking it back.
Or this is, we're catering to the fanboys and stuff, and it's I someone had said, I think maybe me and you were talking, Scotty, and stuff, and I was like, we were just talking like, man, so I don't know why people are so upset with hack and slash Luke, and I'm like, or maybe it was on Twitter. I was like, well, it's not necessarily hack and slash Luke at all. He's a protector. He's going through. He's, like we're saying, it's that surgical precision. We just go back to that point, you know, you make at the beginning of the thread, Alden. when he says, "I was Luke Skywalker, a legend."
Mm-hmm.
It's the legend right there. That is not hack and slash. Like it's
not like
hack
he
and
showed
slash
up and
implies he's like Jason.
Yeah,
Voorhees,
he didn't
go around just like whacking people.
He didn't get on that bridge. He didn't even introduce himself. It's not about him.
Right.
He didn't show up and say, "Is that the Darksaber?" He didn't show up and say, "Oh, let me lift Gideon off the ground and kick his ass." Like, he's not concerned about any of that. He shows up and it's, "Who asked for my help?" "Oh, it's you? Come, little one." Like, he immediately becomes nurturing. That's the point. And I think that, there's a contingent of old school fans that hated Last Jedi because they felt like it didn't give them their hero. But then there is the reverse. And we've seen a lot of irony, like you've become what you hate. It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Like, there were people that that loved Last Jedi that were bullied, which is wrong. But then some of those people started bullying Rise of Skywalker fans, which is wrong. Yep. And we've seen now the Last Jedi fans feel like this is an attack on us, and this is a refutation, and it's an apology, and it's all these things. First of all, no one's apologizing for $1 billion. Number one. Like, if you just want to talk about it in terms of business, there is not anyone on this earth apologizing for $1 billion, especially when he was the only director that she has said was like a dream to work with. That yet he was like the next Spielberg. Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's this weird. Everything has to be an attack on what I like, instead of ever saying that maybe, just maybe, it requires a little bit of engagement on your part. And that's how we get, some of our best reads, like I remember being in high school and they would use Frodo Baggins to teach us about, the hero's journey, or they would use The Matrix to talk about existentialism, or Harry Potter or Aslan as Christ figures. That didn't all just happen. They don't say that in the material. It requires you to dig.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it requires you to really just dig into that stuff and apply your worldview to it a little bit, the way you view the world, but also see the author's view of how the world works, right? It's just, it's both. And yeah.
One thing I want to bring up too, and I bring it up a lot, and I've brought it up recently a lot because it's really important. The Mandalorian has done something, and we can all attest to this. It has done something no other Star Wars content has done, where you consider this one big story. And you've brought that up too earlier, Alden. But like, this show alone didn't just give us prequel references, okay? It gave us OT references. It gave us sequel trilogy references. It made it feel like one really long story, instead of your brain automatically going to, oh, that's original trilogy. No, that's sequel trilogy. No, that's this show. And this one season made it all feel worth it, Cobb Vanth showing up. What? Like, that was such a good thing for us insanely passionate fans. And Boba Fett showing up. People that haven't been interested in since the 80s are now interested in it again. So then you bring Luke in, and it's the combination of everything, You bring all this together, and you bring up a great point and thread that people, I think, also forget to look past, because it's the connection of everything. The man on the left couldn't exist without the man on the right. They need each other to flesh out the narrative. So yes, the version on the right is badass, but he's contextually cautionary tale. The version on the left validates the version on the right. It's true, because that was Luke, all right? And then that Luke is not the same Luke. And one of the biggest points to bring up is, if you didn't change for over 30 years, what the hell is wrong with you?
You need to do some soul searching. Like, that's not good. That's
if you're the same person that you were in your 20s as a 50-year-old, I'm sure your body's falling apart because of the amount of things you're doing to it, or vice versa.
I'm not the same person I was at the beginning of 2020.
Yes,
now, and Raven D. Spencer on our live call-in show was talking about this too. She's like, who doesn't change after any period of time?
Yes,
like that's just part of it. That's part of life. And if you don't learn from your life, the mistakes in your life, then what's it all for?
And that's the thing, is that, and if you think that Rian Johnson and that J.J. Abrams, and Kasdan and all the stewards of the sequel era aren't aware of that, then look no further than Han Solo in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Because what he is saying there is, if you don't make a change, if you do revert back to your old habits, you're not going to fulfill your part in the grand story. You're not going to fulfill yourself. He says, I went back to the only thing I was ever good at. He is doing what Luke is doing in his own way. Han going around on that, hauling Rathtars is him being on an island by himself.
Yeah.
These are both old guys that are like, we screwed up. And so now Han retreats back into being old, the old version of himself, old timeline wise. He reverts back into the young man, the rascal. Luke has to deal with it in his own way, in a mystical way. And Leia's the only one that stays stalwart.
The only one who has to pick up the pieces again, which is just God bless
she's always
Carrie
done.
Fisher.
She's always done. She's always throwing she throws the blanket over Luke in New Hope. That's what she's always been doing. So
same with Padme, though.
Absolutely.
Padme had the same exact arc,
Yeah,
she was always
the point. That's
yes,
the point
exactly.
of a lot of this. And that's the whole thing with fan service, like you're saying, like the fact that we are still having this fan service conversation is baffling in a lot of ways, because we said it off air. It's always fan service for me and not for thee. And I will have to get the tweet on that and check in my likes and whatever to see who tweeted that originally, because it is spot on.
It's brilliant.
Because think about it. Like we had a scene. Imagine telling yourself this like 3 years ago, guys. We had a scene in our lifetime that had Luke Skywalker in it with a bunch of original characters, a couple of whom are Mandalorian, and Bo-Katan in an episode that also featured Slave One, in an episode that also includes the Darksaber, in an episode that ends in Jabba's palace. Like it is animated, live action, sequels, prequels, originals, Rebels, Clone Wars. Like it's everything coming together and validating, and it needs to do that. And so fan service is like, yeah, it can be clunky. I mean, we have some examples, some funny examples, like Scotty, you were talking about. I mean, if you want to say it, like the one example of Poor.
Yeah, there's a lot of times, like we said on the lower third, legends versus nostalgia, because this is Luke, this is legendary Luke, this is amazing, and like you said, Alden, the combination of all this is legendary. Okay, this is and you say this in the thread too. I'll get your thread pulled up just for a second here. It says, I actually get it pulled up bigger. It says this, and I love it. What Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Mr. Peyton Reed did here was to help paint an even more complete picture of Luke Skywalker, and having Mark add this crucial note. It's just phenomenal, and the phenomenal piece of this tapestry, because it is overall a tapestry. You're right. The whole thing is a tapestry, and to bring up the point that you had kind of brought in earlier, this whole legend versus nostalgia, a lot of times Star Wars does play into the strange, like, nostalgia thing, and nostalgia is really also a very subjective thing. Or subjective or objective, I forget. Objective is, I don't know. It's subjective, because nostalgia for Scott, okay, who grew up with the Phantom Menace, is not the same nostalgia for my father who grew up with the OT. And there's a lot of these times where they just get thrown in there. I.e., the one that Alden and I have a bone to pick with, but not really. It's nothing to really get mad about. That's the thing. That's the misconception. You shouldn't get mad about this stuff. Yes, it can irk you. Yes, it can frustrate you. But if this makes you mad, then you need to reevaluate, your stance on Star Wars, because there's one part in honoring the legacy, and another part just being silly with it. And the example I'm going to bring up is the amazing part where Finn is clearing out the bag of tools to use in The Force Awakens that Rey needs, and he pulls out the training droid, and he's like, "What's this?" and throws it back. I'm like, that's just silly to me. And it can be, it's supposed to be silly. But does anyone else have any other gripes like that, Jerry? What do you think? What's your take on that?
I mean, that one never bothered me. To me, that was so quick. That was like just, it was just a quick little thing.
Sure.
And stuff. It's like for all of us to go, it's the thing. And the training remote, and everyone else, your parents may be able to go, hey, wasn't that the little ball that shot darts at Luke? But the one that I think I really had trouble with, and I'm at peace with, like, we always have I think we're all honest enough to say there are things that we have trouble with in almost all the films, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you say, what happened, and so how do you deal with it? So we tend to make up our whatever.
Shout out to Boar Gullet.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, but mine is, and this is one that so many people were like, "Oh, that's amazing," but it really irked me. Was Chewie getting the medal in Rise of Skywalker at the end? It felt so forced from animatronic Disneyland Maz Kanata. Like, Chewie, here, it's a Death Star medal. Yeah, it's Han's medal because nostalgia. And what irked me about it is because I am a canon junkie. I know from like the books that came out right before The Force Awakens with like, there was one for, he got a medal. He got a medal. They just didn't have it ready or something. It was something about how they had only had time to press 2. And they were just like, we got to hurry up because we got to get out of here. And they left or something. But I was just like, it was just so, to me, it was so ham-fisted. Chewie gets a medal. Boom, boom, boom. See, you're a nerd, right? You like this? And I'm like, that was the whole thing where people were frustrated that like JJ didn't read any of the books or something and all that. And now I'm like, okay, well, he had that and he gave it to a girl in a comic series, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. I didn't even. Okay, so now he gets this one that was from Leia. It was Han's, and it's like, here. You get to have this because you're the last surviving relative. So it's your inheritance. Here you go, buddy. It's like a sweet little thing for him, So I'm fine with it. But it still is just that, and Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi saying, I need to turn him back. I know I can turn him back to the good side. And not just saying, turn him back to the light. It's already cheesy, Mark. Just pull back a bit. Just a bit. Yeah.
We all have those moments. We all have those moments.
Anyway,
I rag on Boar Gullet, but like we all have those things. But in terms of what makes it fan service versus what makes it like matter, first of all, it's completely up to you, because maybe there's somebody watching this right now that's like, I fell in love with Star Wars during the training remote scene, when Obi-Wan's telling him like, reach out and feel and all that stuff. Maybe that's someone's favorite scene and that meant a lot to them. But I would look at Last Jedi again when R2 plays the Leia message. That is the most fan servicey, do you remember this, ever? And it's beautiful because it matters for the moment. And
the best use of fan, I would argue, honestly.
Yeah, like it's an amazing use. So it's so subjective that when people say this is fan service, it's not. It has no dictionary definition, and so it becomes. Like if again, I go to Marvel all the time just because it's the other huge franchise right now. But if in 20 years there's a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie and he's looking through Peter's stuff or something, and there's the picture of Peter and Tony, that we see in Endgame.
Like we're all gonna shed a tear.
Is that gonna be like? Am I gonna be like fan service? No, I'm gonna be like, wow, like that hit me in a place. Yeah, it's there for me. Like there's the other thing is that people think that you can only take things on one level. It's either great or it sucks. But what Jerry, what you just did with the medal was show the levels. Like you had your reaction of, that's cheesy. But then you were like, well, it's kind of nice. Like you can have a range of feelings.
I agree. Oh, yeah.
Well, these movies are supposed to make you feel more than just joy, right? Like, you're supposed to, and I mean, I don't know, it's you're supposed to get an emotional reaction. And stuff. It's like what you do with that emotional reaction causes the trouble, right? Yeah. That's where the whole hitch and the giddy up comes from. And yes, I just said hitch and the giddy up.
That was pretty good.
You're welcome.
Pretty southern. Let me say this too, because there's some really good uses in The Mandalorian alone, and of course the sequel trilogy and even the prequel trilogy has done this really well. But like. The pod racing engine that Cobb Vanth rides. What?
Oh my gosh.
That was
I didn't care how overt that was. I was cheering.
Like us. Yeah. Like us. That is or the dogs that the Tusken Raiders have. But you got to think this
Mastiffs.
That makes sense for the story because of where they're located. And I mean, does it surprise you? There's 3 towns apparently on all of Tatooine. That pod race engine didn't leave the planet. Of course, someone found it, fabricated it into a speeder. And
it's people talk about it being a small galaxy, but it's an even smaller planet. I mean, come on.
I'm so done with small galaxy as a complaint. I'm done. I'm looking right at you, small galaxy people. I'm done with it.
It's fine. There is no such thing as Star Wars fatigue. Okay, or small. Go ahead, Alden. Give him your warning.
Well, no, I wanted to bring up one thing because Alden brought it up for a moment. But as Star Wars fans, here we are clamoring for like the Acolyte. Whoa! But the only reason we're really excited for the Acolyte is because it takes place before the Phantom Menace, and we know what happens that leads up to the Phantom Menace. We know that Plagueis is 100% around 50 years for the Phantom Menace. We know that a young Sheevy Palpatine is around, and here we are. We're like new, and then they give us Andor. Yes, they give us Lando. Yes, the only thing that we are, I guess, convinced of that is new is going to be Rogue Squadrons, but it's probably not even going to be new. It's just like you said,
but still X-Wings.
It's still X-Wing, exactly.
We don't get to fly something other than an X-Wing.
Yeah.
Like, where's the Q-Wing come in?
Look, Patty Jenkins, why don't you make Rogue Squadron all N1s? All right? Throw me a bone.
Oh, that would be so effing brave. Oh my gosh.
Patty. But
bring back the N1s.
I remember, I'm not going to call this person out, nor would this person ever even know because they're huge. But there was somebody in the YouTube space that in one breath, I watched this person on a show one time say, "We want new," and then ended that thought by saying, "When are they going to announce the Kenobi show?" and I remember thinking, I feel like you definitely are sending mixed messages here. And again, who stole the show at Disney Investor Day? Hayden Christensen.
Oh
Hayden
my gosh.
Who, for a long time was the leading man of new Star Wars, but his series has been over for a long time. We're about to hit the 20th anniversary of his first appearance. In Celebration Anaheim is going to be 20 years of clones. Baby, I can't
wait. Such a fun year, man.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. And we're so again, Star Wars will always. First of all, it was an exercise in nostalgia when it started. I mean, it's the guy that made American Graffiti.
That's so true.
King Arthur.
He wanted to make
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
It's the Searchers. Yeah. It's Seven Samurai. It's all these things. So for anyone to act like it hasn't always been this it's just baseless. It is.
Yeah.
And it's something that that Ken Knapsack jokes about on Force Center all the time. Like, oh, it's Skywalkers and Palpatines. Well, who else is it going to be about right at the end of that story? Like, and I said this. I think in the. Sometimes it blends together. Did I say it on air? Did I say it off air? I don't know. But I was using the Rocky franchise.
We talk about this stuff all the time.
Exactly. If they make another Rocky movie, am I going to be like, man, it's always about Balboas and Creeds? Why isn't it about, why isn't it about punchy bag Jim over there? Like, because maybe we'll give him a series another time, but this is this story. This story right now. And
we've gotten that perfectly with like Blade Runner 2049, Cobra Kai. I mean, you can list things over and over again now that have done it well, and others that haven't done it so well. I mean,
maybe that's why people have such a gripe, right? Because we are kind of in a renaissance of let's go back to the things that we loved back. Like it's because the guys who were like my age and old, honestly, the older guys. I was born in '87. I'm not that old, but like it's the guys who grew up in the 80s, the people, the women, the men who are in charge now are like, let's pull that back out and play with those toys, but let's do our version of it. And it's just, some of it's fascinating. Some of it's honestly a cash grab, which does happen.
And sometimes it can be a fascinating cash grab, which, I hate to break it to you. Pretty much all of it.
Money's a real thing that exists in the world, guys. I'm sorry. We haven't gone to the utopian model yet.
Yeah. And I also think that, you brought up that great point with the Acolyte of, do we know that it's going to have Plagueis and Sheev? No. But would I be surprised if they came up? Not really. I mean, because it just feels like it's right there. I'm sure the main character will be someone else. We've heard it's going to be a female-led thing. So I'm sure it'll be Yeah, it'll be a different Sith Lord. Maybe that's how they bring Talon into canon. Who knows?
Exactly.
But I think that everything, if you think that because the Skywalker saga is over, that we're not always going to be in this era, at least in some capacity, you're wrong. Like, we are just always going to be in this era. And I'm not saying episode 10's around the corner, but I am saying that, let's say Andor and Kenobi are huge successes. Then why wouldn't they then say, hey, let's do the live action Hera show? And do some dogfighting.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do live action. We have the actor that plays Cal Kestis, Cameron Monaghan, is a live action actor. Why don't we do a Fallen Order miniseries that bridges the games? Or we're always going to be in this Phantom Menace to Rise of Skywalker. Always.
Well, a cool thing too I saw, I don't even remember who posted it, but they condensed all the events in Star Wars into our human Earth timeline of these big events would have happened then. And I think the earliest they said the biggest event would have happened in the 50s. Like the Phantom Menace would have taken place in the 50s in terms of times and year. If Rise of Skywalker is 2021, then Phantom Menace would have taken place in the 50s. And it's a really important thing to bring up because those events in the 50s still affect us today. The atomic family,
and they feel like they were like thousands of years ago too, right?
All the technology we use, literally computers are of the 80s, but television, and this is a new version of it, but it is still that same piece of tech. Microwaves, cars, all these things were
and injustice.
Era. Oh, and
evil. It's like I had this conversation with my mom, earlier this year. Not that my mom's problematic, but I was just trying to make a point about what you're talking about, the timelines. I was like, Mom, did you know that when you were born, there was still a year. You were 1 year old when we still had colored water fountains like in the South. It was just the other day in terms of human history. And all of that stuff, which is why it's like, could the First Order have been aesthetically more unique? Sure. Could it have, could Starkiller Base have not been around and have worked a little bit differently? Sure. But the idea that we beat evil once and it just goes away is ridiculous. The fact that there's a big thing with Last Jedi haters. Oh, but he cast the blade away. I'm a Jedi like my father before me. I thought that he had won. He'd beaten the dark side. Well, if you can beat the dark side once, is it really a threat? Is that is that really storytelling?
That's good.
And people say the biggest reply that I got on that thread from tons of people was Luke Skywalker tried to kill his nephew. And I'm going to look right down the barrel of this camera right now and tell you.
Go for it. Preach, brother.
No, he didn't. Trying to kill Ben Solo is a completely different thing than thinking you might have to kill Ben Solo. He did not go in there and hack at him. He went in there and thought, am I going to have to do this again? Am I going to have to fight another family member? This is the guy who built his legacy on beating his father and redeeming him, but beating him. And is that now going to be my life again? It's been years. This boy, at the time, I think when Ben fell, he was 23. 6 years before Force Awakens. So this 23-year-old boy that I grew up, probably helped name because his name is Ben. And it's like, I'm going to have to do this again. And that, he says it passed like a fleeting shadow. Having the thought as a hero of if he becomes the great evil, and he felt all of it, he heard the screams, he had that, he peered into his mind. Who else? Leia put down the blade. He doesn't know where Ahsoka is if she's around. Who else? If he falls, it's on me. If he starts taking lives, I have to put him down. All of that is what's going through his mind. And he turns on the blade because the darkness is still there. That's the dark side. Turns it off. So people will say he tried to kill his nephew. No. Why don't you have a real moment with yourself? And if you're watching this, especially again, if you're a parent, if your kid went and beat up another kid in school, you might have to yank them off. It doesn't mean you yank your child and hurt them. It means you're preventing a situation. Yeah. And in Star Wars is a metaphor for real life. So this whole instance of he tried to kill him and I'm going to make a YouTube video about it. And my thumbnail is going to be the crazy Luke from Kylo Ren's telling of the story. The fact that you're paying attention to Kylo Ren's telling of the story should tell you a lot.
Exactly.
I'm annoyed.
There he is. That's why I love
Alden. Mad at you people.
Oh,
you seriously just put into words my exact mind head space. I don't know what that is. Since like The Last Jedi and all the complaints. Seriously,
it's blown my mind because we're never going to get. It
shows that you have the emotional maturity of Ben at that moment, right?
Yeah, like
this person who is getting the wrong idea, right?
Yeah.
Like
and
his thing is, I gotta kill the past.
We're never gonna get the whole truth. I mean, even that third version, there's always this side and the truth. That's the point of Rashomon and everything that Ryan was doing.
Right.
But the idea that he tried to kill him has always blown my mind, because let me ask those fans this: if Ben had left the hut that night and went and actually did attack another student, who solves that problem? Who's supposed to solve that problem? Who's responsible to solve that problem? If he becomes the next Dark Lord, who has to rise up against him? His mother and his uncle. Mm-hmm. Mostly his uncle, because his mom has a government to run, with other people. So it would be Luke anyway. So in that moment of like preventative, like, can I stop it now? A moment like a fleeting shadow. Can I stop it before it happens? Is first of all the Skywalker flaw. That's his father saying, "Can I save Padme before she's even dead? Because I had a dream." That's the flaw of all the Skywalkers. That's Leia saying, "Maybe I shouldn't complete this training, stay on the Jedi path, because I think it'll lead to the death of my son." And it did, but he died on the light, and that's why you shouldn't trust visions, folks. But it's
boom.
It's this Raven is the best example.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like
that's all Revenge of the Sith is a big, very dark episode of That's So Raven.
I mean,
it's
her
true.
visions always manifest.
That's so Anakin.
That's the point.
She tried to prevent it. That's the point.
Yeah.
And so Luke creates Kylo Ren by accident, by thinking, maybe I can stop it. And you might think, oh, he should be above those thoughts. Well, imagine being in your 50s and looking back on when you were in your early 20s, and your biggest achievement was battling your father for the fate of everyone's life. You don't want to relive that. You would try to prevent that. That's trauma. Yeah. It's trauma. These parables are also about trauma. King Arthur fought his nephew. Like, come on.
It's just part of myth. It is just part of myth.
And I think that's the cool thing. I think that really kind of ties in the whole theme of this episode, legend versus nostalgia.
Absolutely.
It's all mythological. It's all deeply rooted in our culture. It's all about anthropology. It's all about the myth making. It's all about, it's all about Joseph Campbell's theories. And weirdly enough, The Mandalorian did that, and we didn't expect it. It gave us a Luke that we always wanted to see, but it's always been the same Luke. If you really read into the story, if you really were to tear apart everything that Star Wars has given us in the last, I mean, it feels like thousands of years, but Star Wars has only been given it to us for the past 5 years for us really ultra passionate.
But it's because those things are so true that they feel like they're thousands of years old.
Oh yeah,
that there's it's Peter Parker, it's freaking Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's all of these characters, and I want to read this Filoni quote real quick if I can.
Oh please,
is why? And people say like, oh, he should have been above that. He was a master, like not my Luke, et cetera, et cetera. Well, your Luke fulfills a very specific role. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of pressure to put on anyone. And we see how Rey, Finn, and Poe, the new generation, how they all at different points almost break under that pressure, or how they make mistakes, like Poe costing so many lives in the escape from Dakar. So it's a lot of pressure. And Filoni spoke about that. If you look in the Art of the Rise of Skywalker, there's a quote from a story group meeting from May 21st, 2014, when they were going over, what the new trilogy would be like, et cetera, where they're about to, they're moving into shooting and they're thinking now 8, 9, et cetera, having all these meetings. And he says, I think Luke understands that it's not about what he wants. It's not about what he gains. It's frankly about what everyone else gained. Sometimes you have to be the one that carries the burden and becomes that vessel. These aren't characters that go and get married. They don't get over the scar. Frodo from Lord of the Rings carries the ring to Mount Doom, and for the rest of his life is plagued with fear. On certain days, he remembers those pains because he has to carry that burden. And Frodo has no peace until he leaves that world. Luke is that character. And it's true. And it doesn't mean that Luke has a sad ending, because he doesn't. He becomes one with the Force. And even after doing that, he lifts the X-Wing and he gets to look off at, him and Leia at their last apprentice, because they both trained her. That's all good. Frodo gets to go to the Undying Lands, which is essentially a heavenly place and all that. But before he did that, he's telling Sam, like, here, you're going to have to finish the book. Some days I still feel pain from where I was stabbed. The ring stretches you. We saw what it did to Bilbo. Heroes pay. But that's why they're bigger than us, because they can take it. That's the end of the Dark Knight. Why are you chasing him, Dad? Because he can take it. Because we need Batman to do that. We need him to take the fall.
Man.
Alden, it's been a wonderful time. This is
Alden
Damn,
is on
dude. This is why Alden shows up on Bombad. He rocks it every time. Okay. And honestly, I could say I love this man. I wish I could have actually got to know him at Celebration, but 2022 is going to be a fantastic
2022
year.
Is going to be a big time where we're all making the seismic charge noise all over the Celebration show floor together.
2022 is going to be a rager, man. Like, it's going to be.
Oh man,
it's going to be. I'm going to be like Andy and Anthony, crowd surf. Like,
yeah,
come on. Like,
yeah, come on, guys.
I want to smash guitars. Like, it's gonna be nuts.
Yes.
Be like, Warwick Davis, let me give you a hug, because Willow will probably be out. Like, you're gonna be rocking and rolling.
It's a time to be alive, and honestly, if this just should be an ad for Celebration, but I mean, if you haven't gone, you've got and I don't know your situation, but you've got almost 2 years to save up for it, and it literally everyone in this chat. This one right here, and of course me, we can all attest to the fact that it is indeed life-changing. Even my girlfriend who's not an insane Star Wars fan like us, it is truly life-changing. It just is. This is the kind of
something especially after surviving a pandemic and almost fascism. I mean, just do something for yourself and go enjoy the Star War.
Yeah. The way I've always described it is it's a place where you look around and everywhere you turn, the autograph line, the line for a donut, the urinal, the celebration stage, everywhere. Any person you see, that if you were 5 years old, you would have played together.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
Absolutely.
You're like,
everyone's so excited.
We would have had so much fun. Like, you just know.
That everyone on a deep level would care about getting news about Quinlan Voss. As that is like something to behold. Honestly.
It is. And like, I don't know. I love getting a chance to talk with you, Alden. Alden, you're always a special person to bring on.
Why don't we have you on more, man? We need to, Alden, you need to like be coming on here. Like,
I'm gonna have to fire my,
seriously,
fire someone. I don't know. My publicist.
I was the PR person on this one, but.
No, dude. Alden, thank you again. Alden, we've got your shirt on right here, but there's many more places we can find you, and you're always involved with different podcasts. I'm not going to be honest with you. The guests you were pulling this.
You're not going to be honest?
No, I am.
Sorry. I was
your 2021 guest list, like throughout the holidays and a little bit before that, pretty damn good. Like you've really just taken everything and I don't know, not to say we've watched you grow. It's a weird phrase, but I think Bombad and Octo Radio were very close in birth.
Alden
right?
Alden was before us though, because he gave me a card. I got an Octo Radio card at Celebration 2019.
A business card with the old logo, but
I still have it somewhere. I honestly do. It could be in the drawer, honestly.
The first episode of Octo Radio launched on the first day of Star Wars Celebration 2019.
Shut up. So literally, we were just 2 months behind you, essentially. But isn't that we've all grown up in a space now where we've had special people on, you've had special people on, we've worked together. I don't know. There's a lot of friendships we've made, and they haven't been in person. And that's the beauty of this. And, even the beauty of, sadly, the quarantine we experienced together. We have all just grown in our fandom, grown in our relationships with one another. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. a like or a retweet really goes a long way. And I know it's not a healthy thing to say, but when you've got people that I know are wonderful, like Jerry and Alden here, talking to y'all almost every day or seeing you almost every day on social platform, it's a weird form of family. And Star Wars is all about found family. And I don't know.
Hey, it helped me get through 2020, man. For real. I think.
Oh yeah.
Alden, I included you in my thread, didn't I?
Yeah.
They made it people. Okay.
And same with you guys. Like it was everyone that came on Octo Radio that made the time. And like, yeah, there was a little bit of that. I'm going to try to book people because I know they're available. Like you're not going anywhere.
Right.
But it's also like people said no. Like you could have said no. Like, and there the idea that we're going to take time and like laugh about something or cry about something. And that the fact that Star Wars was there. I mean, the beginning of quarantine was right as Siege of Mandalore was wrapping up. So we were all riding the high and talking about, Ahsoka versus Maul, Vader with the blue saber. Like those memories were there to let us cope with the way things were changing. Oh, yeah. And now with Mandalorian, they're letting us cope with the year changing. They let us cope with, I mean, Mandalorian started when the election was happening. So it's like that helped me. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like we've sort of, this is the story of Star Wars in a lot of way. It is us, and that's another thing that I preach about all the time is that if you love this and it helped you, then you are a part of it. You are a rebel. You are a foundling. This is us. Like this is us starring Mandy Moore. Great show, not in Star Wars. But yeah, it's really beautiful.
That's amazing.
Well, and family reunions coming up in 2022 again, guys. Not to do the commercial for that, but seriously.
Although if they want to pay us to do a commercial on them.
Oh hell yeah.
That was my first celebration. I'm telling you, I'm excited to go again now because it is summer camp. It's like I'm gonna go see all my family, my friends, and stuff. And so it's so good, guys.
I want Alden to take his time and plug his stuff because if you enjoyed this episode, you can find more of this guy. Okay, probably one of my favorite creators in the positive space, in the really good Star Wars space that we all belong to. Alden, give my people or our people some more information.
Yeah, so you can find me personally at AD_Strider. That's my personal Twitter account where a lot of this stuff gets thrown at the wall to see what sticks. And that's usually where I am. Instagram at A_D_Strider. The show Octo Radio is AHCHTO Radio wherever you get your podcasts. It's on all your platforms, your Apple, your Spotify, your iHeart, all that good stuff. So that show, there it is. Boom.
That's such a beautiful shirt.
That's it. Logo by the great Brian Ward. So
beautiful.
That's available for people as well. New shirts are coming literally probably days away, maybe like a week from new shirts that I'm going to share with the guys that they'll be able to see as well. And we're excited about that. There's going to be a couple new shows on the Octo Radio podcast feed. So if you're already a subscriber to Octo Radio, this year there's going to be a show that I'm going to be co-hosting. I'm not ready to announce it yet, but I will say that we are going to rewatch Rebels from beginning to end with interviews.
There we go.
So that's going to be a whole show. And then there is someone else coming on who is not me that's going to be launching. I'll give the only clue, her show on the Octo Radio podcast feed. And so then that's great. And then there's the One and Done Film Club. That's the last thing. One and Done Film Club launches very soon. More details on that on Twitter, where we take all these franchises like Star Wars and say, what if we could only watch one of them? And that was the birth of that idea. And what one movie gets into the club? Is it going to be Phantom Menace? Is Phantom Menace going to be the one that gets into the club? I don't know. We're going to fight it out on air.
I cannot wait for that, man. I cannot wait for that thing, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a lot.
I'm eager to see damn it, what's the Palpatine line? No, I failed. It's we'll watch your career
watch your career with great interest. Yeah. I thought it was the one you usually love, which is like a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yeah, so good. I will say this, just to keep it Lucasfilm related. The One and Done Film Club episode 1 is Indiana Jones.
Oh, it better be Crystal freaking Skull. So if you haven't listened to that episode, Alden, we had Alex Damon come on and talk about that years. God, that must have been our 8th episode. But we talked about how great Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, and I'm very proud of that one.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is better than Temple of Doom. Good night,
dude. That's it. That's it. So, for anyone that hasn't listened to a Bombad, I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with us. Okay, share us with your family. Definitely share Octo Radio. Okay, look, check it out right here. Got the logo. Fantastic show. And rate us 5 stars on iTunes. Review us, please. If you really liked it, Patreon page, patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors. You can support a bunch of different shows with just $5 a month, and $5 a month is nothing. Okay, nothing. So with that being said, keep up with us at beyondtheblastdoors.com. Follow us at Bombadcast. If you want to leave us a personal message, okay, it is 3312 Beyond. All right. So Alden, you know the ending phrase, and if you don't know it, I don't think you're a true fan of it. What should the wonderful Bombad people do?
I think it has something to do with staying Bombad, right? I think that you should stay Bombad. That's what I'm going to stick with.
All right, man. Stay Bombad. Peace.
All Bombad.